6 decades. Ireland has one of the highest overdose drug-related deaths in Europe. In the north of Ireland, there is an explosion of people dying in relation to drug-related deaths. So something needs to happen. Other countries have done it differently in relation to safe consumption rooms and so forth. And I think that needs to be done as very quick as possible. And you know, the chairperson of the Citizens' Assembly stated there is no time to waste. There is no time to waste, Taoiseach. If it saves one life, literally one person, if that can save one life, then it's worth changing course in relation to criminalising people. So my question is, will the government obviously, you know, take the recommendations, and not only kind of take the recommendations in relation to policy, but the key thing in relation to that report was legislative change. We have the Misuse of Drugs Act since the 1970s, criminalising people, sending people to the criminal justice system, sending people to the courts, sending people, jailing people. It doesn't work, Taoiseach. Show me where it does work. Other jurisdictions have showed that, you know, there's a different, we can change a course and we can actually save lives and take people out of the criminal justice system.
Thanks, Deputy, and once again, thanks for your interest and knowledge on this matter. I think it goes without saying that the greatest drug of use and misuse in this state is alcohol, and it's legal. It's associated with public order offences, child abuse, violence against women. It is associated with acute disease, chronic disease, makes mental health worse, associated with suicide, public order offences, major road traffic accidents, and yet we would never consider criminalising alcohol in Ireland because we know it wouldn't work. People wouldn't obey the law, and alcohol would be driven into the hands of a criminal industry, and people would be killed by impure alcohol, as was the case during Prohibition periods in Ireland. And I think that's something we all need to be honest about. And in my view, drug use and misuse by individuals should be seen primarily as a public health issue and not a criminal justice matter. But that is very different from drug dealing, for example, and the production of illegal medicines and drugs. And I certainly think that shaming people and blaming people and criminalising people isn't an effective policy and has largely been rejected by the public, particularly younger people. And if it was the case that that approach and the war on drugs and Just Say No was a successful policy, it would have been successful 40 years ago. And it hasn't worked. And I think we all need to admit that. And certainly that's what the Citizens' Assembly admitted in its report. In terms of where we go from here, I'm going to have a chance to meet with Paul Reid tomorrow. He's going to present the report to me, keen to hear his reflections, not just what's written down in the report. And then he's going to meet with Minister Naughton as well, whose responsibility for this area, and we'll publish the report formally. And then I think it's important that we have an opportunity for the Oireachtas to consider it. That's the usual process for a Citizens' Assembly, and we'll set out the details as to how that can be done, most likely tomorrow after the meeting with Paul Reid.
Councillor Kenny.
I think one of the main elements of the report was not kind of having lip service to our approach, but obviously changing the legislation. And you said, you know, criminalising people for small possessions of drugs, no matter what them drugs are, simply is a waste of resources for the state. And, you know, the proliferation of drugs, whether people use drugs or not, that's irrelevant. But the proliferation of drugs and availability of drugs is widespread. It's impossible, and people that are in the law enforcement kind of area have said that, you know, law enforcement alone simply cannot, you know, curtail the availability of drugs and the reason why people take drugs. A lot of people take drugs and never have a problem, but there are people that will fall into addiction. Now, next week, Taoiseach, which is a test of your government, People for Profit is bringing forward a bill, very simple bill in relation to somebody that has a simple, you know, in simple possession of cannabis on their possession. We're asking you to have a look at the bill. It's a very short bill, and to endorse it and let it go to committee stage, because this is the test. I think the days of lip service are over, Taoiseach, and the days of saving lives is on. Thank you.
Thanks, Deputy. used to be a skeptic of citizens' assemblies, and over the past 5 or 10 years I've become a fan of them. I think they can be really effective. We don't always accept the recommendations, nor do we have to, but we always consider them. And I think when you put in front of 100 citizens all of the evidence, all of the experts and all of the advice, sometimes they come up with very good recommendations. And like I say, we don't always accept them, we often do, but we're the legislature. We're the ones who actually make the decisions in the end, and that should never change. And we'll have to give careful consideration to any kind of legal change, and that's our job. And that's going to take a bit of work and a bit of advice. Certainly what the Gardaí say to me, and I've asked the Gardaí about this on a number of occasions, they would say to me that they would rarely prosecute people for possession. And where they do prosecute people for possession, it's because they suspect they've been doing more than possession, that they have been dealing or promoting or selling, but that's the charge they can get them on. So there's just complexities like that we need to kind of figure out. And like I say, we'll set out tomorrow how we best think that this report can be taken forward.
As Ken Corla Taoiseach, last November I asked you as Taoiseach, as leader of our country, to lead what I hoped would be an open, honest, factual and respectful debate on immigration. So far this hasn't happened, and in my view, until we treat our citizens as adults and trust them with all the facts, the nice stuff we want them to hear and the hard facts, the tough stuff that's difficult. Until that happens, Taoiseach, people will and have got some of their information elsewhere, and that's not always good. Today I just want to raise one issue with you, the national conversation, and it's a difficult one, but it's the national conversation around single men who are seeking asylum and the specific situation whereby some communities have said they will welcome and integrate families but not groups of single men. Now, the knee-jerk reaction is, this is unacceptable, it's racist, these are far-right tropes. But I'm asking for a little bit of reflection and to cast your mind back just 2 years ago, when thousands of visceral statements from so many Irish women followed the horrific murder of Aisling Murphy. And I still remember some of the comments from Minister Anne Rabbitte, who said, in this House, she said, not all men, but all women grow up knowing they are not safe. Not all men, but all women know the feeling